looks like we are working. This thing said I've been live for 8 minutes, baby. That's crazy. So y'all been listening to me sit here and sing Secret Garden by Quincy Jones for the last 8 minutes. Damn, I didn't mean to do that, but it is what it is. That's what took me so long. I got distracted and I was listening to Quincy Jones and Barry White, Al B. Shore, and James Ingram. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I am pretty confident that you can hear me. And we're going to do a quick deep dive into some more of my Dogman data points. Gentlemen in the chat, hello, how are you? I hope life is treating you well. I'm pretty sure I have a mad echo right now. I mean, it's probably insane. There is literally nothing I can do about it. I can try and talk into this freaking microphone muffler thing, but that's disgusting. So you're going to have to deal with it. You dig? But like, as you know, there's literally no carpet in here. Okay, of course, this phone call comes while I'm online. I don't know who the hell you are, but bye. And so you're going to get a little bit of an echo. Can't do nothing about it. It's just the sound is screwed up. Or I can go into the bedroom and lay across that bed. But I've been listening to that Secret Garden, Sunshine. I know you know about that Quincy Jones. In the garden where temptation is so right. All right, let's go into this Dogman. Let me quit playing. I'm in a great mood. Oh, it's nothing like being from a city where it goes wrong all the time. And so when it goes sideways, you just like, whatever. All right, this is the tab I'm sharing. So Dogman Deep Dive. Behavior observations based on terrain. I did this in August. Didn't get a chance to put it out, but we're going to go over it. So we're going to talk about some things. Now, come on, Mike Mouse. What are you doing, Mies Mouse? All right, so this information is extracted from the same data points that you guys saw with the variations in size and eye color and things of that nature. So some Marvin C's speaking through the one. I love me some Marvin C's, dog. Don't get me started, because like I will DJ on this freaking live stream and destroy it. You know what I'm saying? For real. Because I love me some Marvin C's. People don't understand. Marvin C's saying that I'll be your candy liquor girl. I just want to be 8 days a week, your candy liquor girl. The man say 8 days a week, your candy liquor. But let me stop. We're not going to go there because, you know, we get to acting a fool around here. All right, so let me get focused. All right, like I was saying, this is all extrapolated from the data points that you guys have seen in the past based on eye variations and eye color and size. I got one that I already done that talks about speed. Now, the speed is a little bit harder to quantify, but I try my best nonetheless. But what this is talking about is the scenario that you may find yourself in based on terrain. 3 types of terrain: dense wooded forest. The second type of terrain is swamplands and wetlands. The third type of terrain is rural farmland primarily. Now, when you get to urban, which is, you know, apartment complexes, cities, roads, streets, you literally don't have Dogman encounters in that area. You may have them on the outskirts of suburban areas, urban, suburban areas, going to where you kind of borderline being in the suburbs / light rural area. But I compensate for that and account for that. Okay. So you guys will have the opportunity to, you have an understanding once I get through this. Someone's talking about Onk. Yeah, Onk is, the rest of Onk is coming, man. I don't want to record Onk in this environment. The other parts to it. The next part of Onk is like 4 hours long, dude. And if you listen to that story, then you kind of, if you listen to that story and been following me on Facebook and you've been following me on my Twitter accounts, then you are really getting to know me as a person from listening to that story. And the next set of stories is going to explain a lot of what you've seen on Facebook that you didn't understand, which is my way of communicating with a lot of people that is not particularly you. But anyway, let me stop being distracted and go into this. So those are the scenarios, and these are what I was. This is what I was able to extrapolate from those scenarios. So we talk about scenario one. Now, in scenario one, this is the linchpin for scenario one is these are unintentional encounters. Whoa, what happened there? All right, here we go. Let's go. The conditions. This is non-initiated contact, unintentional encounters, no previous contact with a dog man. You are not shooting at it. You're not showing it any kind of aggressive behavior. And for the sake of this presentation, the individual, the witness, is being labeled as the targeted individual, right? In this environment, which is the dense wood forest, national park type of area, these are the common behaviors that people experience. Stalking, and my definition of stalking is very specific, and you'll understand it if you ever had an encounter. It is, as you move through the woods, it moves. The minute you stop moving, it stops moving. It's not. That is my definition of stalking, extrapolated from the data sets. There's other ways to define stalking, but this, for the terminology of this is what we're talking about. Then flanking, which is done in a couple of ways. One way is circling around the target and like pacing you step for step. And then at some point in time, the witnesses hear something moving in the woods away from them. But if you find yourself in the national forest and you find something pacing you step for step, and then you hear it moving away, do not assume that it's leaving. It's actually flanking you, and it's circling out and around to get ahead of you. And then what it will do is it will start pacing you and stalking you step for step, maybe 50, 100 yards ahead on the path that you're moving. So be mindful of that. And then the other behavior that I found when you're dealing with, witnesses who are not being aggressive, witnesses who did not go out there seeking dog man, they're not doing anything. You just in the wrong place at the wrong time, is the herding. And the definition of herding that I'm using is the use of intimidation to guide a target to a desired area. Meaning, you're in an area, it starts to make noise, it starts to move in on you, but it's trying to drive you in a certain direction. And typically, if you have not been aggressive towards these creatures whatsoever, that herding is herding you away from their territory. It's not herding you deeper into their territory. Now, you'll see there's a huge difference once you start, bringing weapons into the equation and aggressive human behavior into the equation. Things go a whole nother route. Sorry, I had to clear my voice. Let's check these comments because there's like some interesting stuff going on over here real quick. Let's see. All right, let's go. All right, let's go to the next part of the presentation. That's just a conversation about the blue eyes. What's up, Sean? Good to see you here. All right, let's go to the next one. That's not the one. All right, wetlands and swamps. This is, and the guys, the majority of my encounters come from the south, what you would consider the southeastern portion of the United States, coming from Texas all the way over through Florida, all the way up into Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee, and some of those areas. For whatever reason, I just haven't caught on the West Coast like I have in the South, but that's fine. It's no big deal. All right. So scenario 2, wetlands and swamps. Again, the conditions are the same. This is a person who's there. They're not looking for dog man, no previous contact, no shooting, no aggressive behavior on their part. The tactics they're not kind of different. They are different in the swamps, and it's a significant difference. So stalking in the wetlands and the swamps is not only done on land, but it's done from tree to tree. And there's a significant difference between the stalking on land and as they're moving in trees, because the tree movement is very intrusive and very obvious to you as the target, meaning you know something's there in the tree. The problem that you run into if you find yourself as that person who's having that unintentional encounter and you hear it in the trees, it's not necessarily a warning sign because they do other things to warn you. It's really an attack, a sign of an attack or an ambush. So you want to be mindful of that. I'm walking around in the swamps, freaking going down to go catfishing or crabbing or gator hunting, and something big is in a tree. That is not a sign of I want you out of my territory. That's a sign of I'm about to eat you, and I want you to be mindful of that. Period. There have been a number of accounts that I've talked to people out of Florida. Some of them people don't want me to share where they have come down out the trees after them. And that's how I know this is pure ambush, pure I'm about to eat your attack. All right. The other frightening thing about the swamps is something that people don't really talk about a lot. The flanking in the swamps is a lot different. And sometimes it involves submersion. And what I mean by submersion is this, and I'll just read it. Defined as circling a target from tree to tree, then submerging in the water and wading, also swimming underwater to a target on a bank or in a boat. The submerging tactic, excuse me, that they're using, it's all this dust in here, man, because it's freaking, shut up, James. Just keep moving. Don't worry about it. You're going to fix that. The submerging tactic of submerging themselves in water and actually jumping out of the water or climbing out of the water is one of the most frightening type of encounters that I've heard. There was one recently, this was a month and a half ago, a guy called me, no, that was 2 months ago, guy called me from Booty, Louisiana. And in Booty, he's out catfishing, like noodle catfishing, where they take these PVC pipes and these like styrofoam noodles and they toss them in the water, and you can do like 25 of them per person, and it floats on the water, and then when you catch a catfish, the freaking catfish drags this floating gigantic noodle around. You ride up in your boat, pick it up, and put the catfish in the boat, right? He encountered a dog man that literally swam up to his boat underwater and then rose his head out of the water. And it rose his head out of the water on the back end of the boat by the engine. He was on the front end. And the only reason why this gentleman knew that this thing was there was because he had an eerie feeling. His exact words was like, James, like, I've been out there all day. It didn't seem like nothing was wrong. He said, I'm over there bending over to pick up a catfish, and I just got a bad feeling. And he said, I'm looking at the back of the boat. And when I look at the back of the boat, I see these gigantic ears coming up out of the water. Then I see the eyes, and he's like, man, I'm freaked out. I said, well, how did you get away? He had already been using a trolling motor at the front to get from spot to spot to pick up his noodles. So he just hit the trolling motor as fast as he can go and then pulled away from it. So that's one of the more frightening things. You don't really hear much about that in interviews and stories. Herding also. In this case, you experience herding in the swamps, and it's typically out of the territory unless you're just in an area where you ran into a bunch of hungry dogmen and they herd you into an ambush. But normally you're being moved out of the area. Like even the guy who I just told you the story about, like if it wanted to flip over his boat, it could have flipped over his boat. I think it wanted him out of that freaking area. And so it got what it wanted, and he got the hell out of there. All right, let me go back and check. Makita, hello, beautiful. How are you doing? Thank you for joining us. Sunshine, my lady's always there. She's cool. Good afternoon. Nothing, no questions. Okay. So you guys can hear me fine. Everything is all good. No issues, right? Somebody said they're leaving after the show to go fishing. That's cool, Dale. All right, next one. And I'm not sure how big this is on my screen. Let's do this. Maybe that'll make it bigger. Let's try this. All right, this might work out a little bit better. All right, scenario 3 in terrain, and scenario number 3 is rural, residential, and just typical rural areas. there's a couple of things that you need to be concerned about if you butt up to a national forest, um, if you butt up, your property butts up to a river or a creek or a stream, and especially crop location and farming land, is and this is where these encounters come from. But these are kind of the terrain conditions, and we're still with the normal conditions of you're not doing anything, you're not looking for dog man, you're not trying to hang out with dog man, none of that. But their tactics and behaviors change. And the number one thing that changes is the revealing when you come to residential areas where, like this, they actually reveal themselves, showing themselves to the targeted individual. And I've come to the conclusion that revealing is both an aggressive and a curious behavior. And what I mean by that is this: I'm 9 foot tall, freaking werewolf, basically, right? With the ability to hide and disguise myself, but I show myself to you, number one, as a form of intimidation, but also as a form because I'm curious to see how you react to my presence. And you know this to be true. Now I know this to be true because in so many encounters they reveal themselves, and then based on how that person behaves, it dictates their future behavior, right? So, for example, everybody's heard about someone who shot Dogman because they saw it. It actually allowed them to see it. They shot it. It came back and acted a damn fool. There's also been people who saw Dogman and just put their head down and bowed down and backed away and went on about their business and never had a problem with them. There have been people who've seen Dogman and threw something at it, and then the next day it threw something at them. So, I believe that from this creature's perspective, not from the human perspective, but from its perspective, it's not only a form of intimidation, but it's kind of a curious um, intelligence gathering behavior on their part to see how you're going to react to their presence. And then they dictate their behavior on that. Once you start getting into rural areas with houses, now that's when you're peeping through windows and doors starts. Again, I believe that's more curious, true curious behavior. Like, okay, let me see what's going on in this house. And then the stalking around the house is significantly different from um, the stalking in the woods or in the swamps. Stalking around the house is typically done from trees, um, like in the tree watching you. And if you go back and listen to a number of my encounters, you'll find that it's a significant amount of times that these things are in actual trees and they're watching the house from the tree. All right, moving on to the next one. Now, scenario 4, 5, and 6 is when we start to introduce weapons and aggressive behavior from the human in the equation, which I call the targeted person. Once we start to introduce aggressive behavior into these encounters, things change significantly. I mean, they really, really do change significantly. So, scenario 4, we go back to the dense woods and forests, national parks, things of that area, which is, well, essentially what I'm saying is areas that are not populated. Like you're out there may be another human being in a 80-mile radius. There may only be one other person, right? Or, you're just out there on your own. The conditions change, but you're not. And what I mean by conditional changes, I mean simply you're not intentionally looking for dog man, but you have a weapon, you provoked a shooting, or you're provoked to be behaving aggressively out of fear. And that could include, oh, I see a dog man, I throw a rock at it, I see a dog man, hey, get out of here. Trying to treat it like a bear, like, hey bear, you're doing aggressive things that are perceived as aggressive to this creature. To you, you're just trying to defend yourself and figure out what the hell to do. But the perception to it is that you're being aggressive. Now, here is where the tactics and behaviors really, really diverge, and you'll see it. You get the normal stalking, you get the normal flanking, but this is where your vocalizations come in. And those vocalizations are divided into a couple of things. The growl, which is that the growl has been known to, and the roar, both have been known to send out very strong vibrations that stun people, like leave them confused. But then there's the other vocalization, which is the screeching, which I think someone released a video of it, and there was this argument about it couldn't have been Dogman, blah blah blah. But I've heard that screeching over and over and over again, and phone like little snippets of audio from witnesses, and they didn't know what it was. And I was like, no, that's a Dogman's, right? So you get vocalizations, you get revealing, and then that revealing goes to strong eye contact and impressions, and facial expressions. Showing the teeth, showing their arms, making sure that you see their claws, moving their hands to draw your attention to certain body parts. From there, in the woods, you go into herding. You will start to be herded, meaning they're now intimidating you and moving you in a desired direction. And if you're out there in like a national forest or in some very dense woods alone camping, and you find yourself being herded deeper into the woods, especially after you've taken a shot at one of these things, or you've even pointed a weapon at one of these things, and you find yourself being herded deeper and deeper in the wrong direction, you need to stop and make a stand right then and there and fight and try and get out of there. Don't allow yourself to be continually be herded deeper and deeper into the woods. You may not ever come back out of that. And that herd typically leads into an ambush. Those ambushes are incredibly creative. When I say they're incredibly creative, the two gentlemen that I talked to who were ambushed here in the big woods, the ambush was insane. It was not only had they been flanked on both sides, they were being herded from the back and then had been flanked on both sides. And imagine you're headed through the woods, walking straight. You're afraid of what's behind you, but there's something in the trees directly ahead of you. And then they're angling in on, let's say this is 90 degrees. Let's say this is 90 degrees going forward. And then they're angling in on at your 45-degree mark. And then if this is 90, and let's just go negative 45-degree mark from looking straight ahead of you. So if you go 45 degrees to your right, 45 degrees to your left, which would be a negative 45 degrees, and then split that difference of that 45 degrees down to 22.25 or whatever it's going to be in the trees there. Like literally something behind you and it's closing in on all angles. The only direction you can run is completely right or left. Like you can't go forward because you're trapped. You can't go back. The direction you can go is right or left. And they felt like, and they believed that that was designed to split the two of them up. After extensive conversation, and these guys are like real hunters. They was like Dark Waters, like that was created to split the two of us up. It was intentionally done to split us up. And it almost worked, but out of fear, they stuck together. So the tactics of ambushing is something that you really need to be mindful of. If it's combined with everything else here, if it's combined with, the stalking, just think of it as like a progression. Okay, I'm in the woods. I have my weapon. I pointed at this thing. Now it's stalking me. Now I hear it moving off and it's flanking me. I've heard vocalizations or screeching and roaring. It showed itself to me. When it showed itself to me, it made eye contact with me. It gave me impressions or gave me expression, showed its teeth, brought attention to his claws or his arms or his ears. And now I'm being herded. And if you get to the point to where all those checks, the boxes are checked and you're being herded, you know you're being herded into an ambush, right? Hold on one second. Sorry about that, guys. I wanted to light the cigar without y'all having to hit a lighter. I'm going to take care of your 503 error today. I have to get my, one of the many things that went wrong over the past 14 days is my old cell phone just all of a sudden just went dead and wouldn't charge. And so I have to add all my email accounts back to my phone because I would fix the 503s on my phone. Like the minute you email me with a 503 error and I saw it, I would just log in and fix it. So I'll be taking care of all that today. Okay, so the scenario number 5, we're going into the wetlands, into the swamps, and this is where it gets very, very, to me, this is the worst terrain to encounter a Dogman on. It really, really is. um, because of their ability to use absolutely use the water in a way that you would not anticipate them using it. And because in the lexicon of Dogman, um, because we've been infiltrated with so many fake stories, and they mimic other stories, and accounts that mimic other accounts. Some of the truer accounts are not bleeding through, which leaves this gap in information when it comes to wetlands and swamps. I mean, it really, really does. And the behavior in these wetlands and swamps, if you think about it, go back and listen to all the little podcasts and stories and blah. There's not many of them. Like, you may find creepy pastas. Just throw that out, because we know creepy pastas are intended for what they are. It's not considered to be real. But when you even go into the quote unquote true accounts and encounters, you find very few of them that involve the wetlands and the swamps, where naturally this is one of their natural places that they live. All right. Anyway, moving forward. Again, remember, the conditions are, this is an unintentional counter. You still, you didn't go out there looking for them. You are a hunter or an outdoorsman. You do have a weapon on you. You're not really a person who, is, I'm looking for Dogman. I know what a Dogman is. You just out and minding your business. You just so happen to have a weapon on you, and you know how to use it. Everything pretty much stays the same, but when we start getting to, you're still going to experience the same stalking. But the flanking and the submersion is where it gets extremely frightening. And what I mean by that is this. In the swamps, the flanking is a little bit differently. It's flanking from tree to tree, with a combination of submersion into the water. So scenario is probably the best thing to explain it, the best way to explain it to you. You're in the swamps, you on your boat, you got off, you went on land. Let's say you're hog hunting and you're deep in the swamps. You're moving across the land, it's bayous, and waterways all around. So you're on a solid piece of land, but there's a waterway on your right hand side, a waterway on your left hand side. Your boat is behind you, which is on a waterway. You're moving through the woods, and you're stalking I don't know, let's say you're stalking a hog, or you're trying to hunt. These things are moving in the trees, in the bayous and the swamps. Like, not just in the tree, but moving from tree to tree. Not even setting foot on the ground. And I have 8 accounts of this. One account where a guy's experienced this 4 times. That area where he experienced it now has just been devastated because of all these hurricanes. But he experienced it 4 times. And the reason why I'm able to confidently speak about this is because he broke his encounter down to the point to where it was damn near scientific the way he thought about it. And the reason why he got to that point is because it happened over and over and over again, and it scared the shit out of him. So he had to like think through it in order for him to even be able to go back out to make a living. So he had to sit down and literally think about it. Anyway, moving forward. So you're in that scenario. Water on all sides, land, you're on land. You're moving. They move from tree to tree. And as he moved, in his example, in his case, as he moved from one side of that land to the other side, stalking and looking for the hog, he started to hear something jumping into the water, like kabloosh. And there's a distinct difference in sound between an alligator sliding into the water, and something jumping into the water. And like he told me, he said, at first I thought it was alligators going into the water. He's like, alligators slide though. He was like, and it's brush back there, and I'm making sure I'm stumping around hard to run off the gators and make sure that they know I'm there, because gators don't want to just attack you. They rather avoid you unless you just run upon a real hungry gator. He's like, but gators slide into the water and makes a different sound. He's like, I'm used to the sound of a gator sliding into the water. He said, but this was a kabloosh into the water. And what he found himself, the scenario he found himself in was being cut off from his boat. Not only being cut off from his boat from the tree, but being cut off from this boat as far as like crossing over a bayou to go to another one to actually get in the water and swim back around to his boat. And that's how afraid he was. So again, put your hand in front of you and spread your fingers. The 3 fingers that are pointing forward are the land that you're on. The finger on your right hand side are your thumb and then your other finger, whichever way you want to use it. The extremity fingers are the waterways which are around you. He's moving across left to right, and he hears a kabloosh into the water as he's going towards, whatever finger it is, if you're using your left hand, moving towards your thumb. And he realizes that something has jumped into the water. But as he's now realizing it's not an alligator and it damn sure ain't no boar, it's something weird, and he wants to backtrack back to the boat and get out of there. Now there's one in a tree. And so now he's trying to work to the other side of the bayou, which will be your opposite side, to get into the water and either go into the other piece of land and swim around, or just trying to get away, swim back around to the boat. And he found himself boxed in on all angles to where he had no choice but to go forward. And that's the herding that we're talking about. Now, in his case, he didn't get the growling and the roaring. He did get the screeching. And he did eventually get them revealing themselves to him to the point to where he could see them. Now, in his case, the conclusion that he's come to is that area where he liked to go do his hunting was just an area he didn't need to be in, because they actually let him out of the area. So he came to the conclusion that was an area he didn't need to be in. And in my opinion, he got extremely lucky. Somebody saw my notifications. I'm trying to see. You guys still with me? In the chat. Kind of hard to tell because people talking about all kind of stuff. Okay. All right. Good. So for those of you who are outdoorsmen, again, if you find yourself in wetlands, swamplands, marshes, and you start observing these behaviors, then you want to look for, the stalking is the first behavior, but you want to look for, number one, look for the flanking and the submersion, meaning have in your mind that, okay, if this is what I think it is, I don't know if you saw signs, let's say you saw a gigantic canine prince. Man, what the hell are they doing out here? Oh, they're cutting trees down. If you saw a gigantic canine prince and you was like, okay, well, this is probably a dog man in this area, get the hell out of there, number one. But number two, if you're still in that area and you find yourself experiencing these things, any one of these, the flanking, the submersion, the herding, the vocalizations, specifically growls and roars, which are way more aggressive than a screeching, they show themselves to you, and then you find yourself being herded into an ambush or herded, just anticipate that there's an ambush coming your way. If water's around, be mindful of that water and understand that it will come out of the water and snatch your ass. Just be mindful, but remove yourself from that equation. The only way to actually handle this is to get the hell away from it. Like, there's conversations with people on blogs and stuff, this 308 and this 50 cal round will do this and do that. And it's great to speculate that stuff. It really is. I mean, it's great for speculation. But the simple fact is that in order for you to actually have that type of weapon, have that type of ammunition, experience the stress that you would be under seeing something like this that you've never seen before, and hopefully you will never see again, and then being able to shoot accurately and perform under those circumstances. There are very few men who can do that. I mean, as a man, you have to be trained to perform under extreme circumstances, just to participate in any type of military operation. You take your standard military operation and throw that out the window because you're fighting a freaking monster, dude. You're just lying to yourself, right? So let that whole thing go. It's good for speculation, but it's just not good to try and do. All right, scenario 6 in the final scenario, which is rural and residential, outskirts of suburban areas where you're a little bit more rural than you're not downtown in any condos or anything like that. Again, near forests, rivers, and farmland. Again, the conditions are that a weapon is involved. It has been shot, or you've shown the weapon, or you've shown some aggressive behavior towards these creatures. This is where you find yourself getting into some of the more frightening things, and I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've never spoken about before um, on my channel at all. Now, this has the home, the encounters associated with people's houses really do have a specific pattern to them, and it starts with revealing. And then normally you would think it would start with them stalking, but no, it literally starts with them revealing themselves to you, showing themselves to that person, that homeowner or that landowner. And then it escalates from revealing to peeping and looking through windows. From peeping, it goes into the phase of stalking, where it's looking at you through trees or from trees. And depending on how aggressive it is, you'll have things like, them on top of your roof. You'll have things like them like digging under your house, under your foundation. And I have a lot of accounts of them being on roofs, and especially the digging. That is insane. And these are things like, these are encounters that I have never gotten around to producing them. Some of them I do have permission to put out, others I don't, but this is just the data points. Anyway, moving forward. From there, you get into the vocalizations. And once you get to that vocalization phase at your property, and you may get to that vocalization phase without even knowing that you've been, they've been peeping on you, or they've been stalking you. May have shown themselves to you. You may not have noticed them looking through windows or looking through doors. You may have not noticed them, digging around outside. Now, of course, you're going to notice them digging under your house or walking on your roof. I would hope you would. But some of the stalking things, some of the peeping you may not see. The stalking you should definitely see. But once you get to that vocalization phase, now you want to really, really start paying attention to what's going on around you, because the next thing is always, and it's always been, the attempts to invade the home. And what I mean by that is, the twisting of the doorknobs, taking out light bulbs, turning cameras, removal and slashing of screen windows, and in extreme cases, ramming into the side of the house, like very, very extreme cases. Now, why they do this, I've come to believe that if you, as a homeowner or a property owner, in the revealing phase where they show themselves to you, if you leave them the hell alone, then you'll be fine. I think that just follow my brain for a second. Right hand in the air, left hand in the air, both of your palms facing you, right? Over here in your right hand is the Dogman, werewolf, whatever the hell you want to call it, whatever makes you more comfortable, right? Over here in your left hand is a little figurine of you. There are factors on each side that dictate how the encounter is going to go out, or how it's going to play out. They're going to do what they consistently do. And this is what I'm showing you. These are things that they consistently do. So the variation in behavior is really not on them. The variation in behavior is how you react to them. So if you see a dog man, or you see this gigantic, which doesn't make sense, but people do it. You see this gigantic 9-foot tall walking wolf that's muscular, with a gigantic mane and a huge hump on his back and large ears, and you decide you should shoot at it, then you immediately escalate that behavior and you move through the rest of these phases, right? If you decide, okay, that's something I shouldn't be messing with, I'm going to go ahead and leave that the hell alone and back away, then there's a greater chance. It doesn't guarantee. There's a greater chance it's going to go on about his business. Now, there's been encounters where people have done that and it still acted a fool. So I'm not guaranteeing you anything. I'm just saying there's a greater chance. And in this scenario, you really want to just survive this. You don't want that kind of stuff hanging around your house and bothering you and your family and killing your dogs. All right, anyway, so we get to the attempted home invasion phase, which is doorknob turning, light source manipulation, camera manipulation. And it doesn't really make much sense why they do this when they have the ability to actually come into the house and get you if they want to. Um, and I believe this attempted home invasion phase where they're starting to meddle with your home and touch things. I think that that also is dictated by your reaction um, to them. Like it's almost like a tick for tack thing. In a lot of cases, when we got to this attempted home invasion part, it was a homeowner who encountered the dog man, initiated an aggressive reaction with him. They came back, initiated another aggressive reaction with the homeowner from a tree, or growling, or screeching, or roaring. Then the homeowner went out into their territory, into their woods, looking for them, and went and tried to find them, and then they came back to the house. So it's one of those things like, you did this, I do this, you did this, I do this, and it escalates, and until it gets to the point of a full home invasion, which is rare. But I have had people who tell me what I believe to be true stories about real home invasions. But I believe the reason why I label it as rare is because there's no way um, that true data set of, you know, a monster coming in people's houses is going to be revealed to the public. I mean, there's literally no way. Jeff Nataloni, who's a good friend of mine, Jeff has done some great work in dissecting. Um, has done some really great work in dissecting the news articles and the stories about some very strange and mysterious deaths and disappearances that could be associated with Dogman. I don't really care to dig deeper into the home invasion portion of it when there's somebody else who's out there. And when you talk about home invasion and we talk about bloody attacks, you can throw that in there as well. I don't really care to dig much deeper into that, but when someone else is doing it, because it doesn't make sense for two good researchers to be researching it, I can have Jeff on to talk about it if you guys like. I'm pretty sure he'll come over and talk about some of the things that he's found. Um, but in my opinion, that's rare, and it's not necessarily rare because of the behavior of them. It's rare because of the access to the information. If a dog man came through your back door and snatched you out of your house, you're not and took you off into the woods and ate you, there's no way I'm going to know about it. There's no real way I'm going to know about that person who was taken. Just like the people who've been taken in the woods while they're hiking and all that stuff. There's no way of quantifying that because they're gone. Only thing we have are the people who had the near death experiences and the near miss experiences. Those are the only information and data points that we can gather from those people who've been taken. We don't freaking know. We don't have any information on that. All right. So was that the last one? Yeah, that's it. I wanted to put that out for you guys. I'll take a few questions and then I'll get to working on and releasing this other Dogman encounter for YouTube, which happened earlier this year on the outskirts, well, actually in Cook County, Texas, when they had that snowstorm, which is a very terrifying encounter that left three houses in one neighborhood. All the people were hiding in one house together. That's how terrifying it was. Any questions? Someone's asking about OBS. I'm almost done with OBS, honestly. Someone wants to know if Bigfoot and Dogman are hunting each other. I mean, there's really no way to know. I've had stories where people have encountered Bigfoot and Dogmen in the same area, but I've only had, one years ago where there was like they were actually going at it. Someone wants to know about Anubis. I think Anubis was a real dog man. I think Anubis was a Nephilim. Any Dogman Bigfoot's reports near Jacksonville, Florida. I'm trying to figure out where the hell Jacksonville is. I'll answer that one in the comment section. Are there creatures also in the SoCal area? I don't have many reportings from California at all. I'm pretty sure people have. I just don't get a lot of people from California that reach out to me. Yeah, I heard that interview with the guy who said he had Dogman as a pup. That was actually on Dogman cams. I don't know. I don't believe anybody can have a Dogman as a puppy, but if the man has a right to tell his story, and you have to judge for yourself what you believe or not. Do I think Dogman activity will increase or decrease post Ida? I'm not sure about that. I know everything is tore the hell up, like to a point to where if I was them, I would take another goddamn route. And also, you have human beings in areas that they wouldn't normally be right now, especially like power line company crews and workers. They're way out in the middle of the woods trying to reinforce things and clear right away and cut back trees. So I mean, I think that activity may slow down a little bit. I don't look into the cover up stuff. Problem situation 941. Hand over. Prophet Yang, I got that story done. I can do that. I can release that story on iamdogwaters.com about the guy who saw the freaking humanoid flying. Somebody talk about the elders. Okay. So I'll be back in a couple of hours with the next piece of content. Members, you have a couple of nice ones coming your way. Let me see here. You have a Crossroads Demon story. You're going to get the Lights Out Dogman encounter first. Then you have like 4 or 5 more stories. And then you have Unk, the other 2 parts of Unk that are coming your way. So you guys got a lot coming. Everybody's got a lot of crap coming, man. I'm not playing. I'm not joking around. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I love you. It's been an hour. I need to get me some lunch. I wanted to get that information out to you. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will be talking to because I do an interview with you one day. Do Bigfoot, Dogman rape human women to behave differently? I interview with anybody, bro. You just got to send me an invite. As far as raping women, there's only really been one story about that, and that came from the Bigfoot Outlaws about 4 years ago, and I think it was a Bigfoot or a Dogman raping a woman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll catch up with you guys later. Peace.